So today we celebrate what God has done amongst us. We celebrate the gift of a permanent home. We celebrate the concrete beneath us, the chairs that are holding us up, the roof that is protecting us from, if it were raining, right? Depending on where you're sitting. We celebrate the warmth of the heater. We celebrate the parking lot. We celebrate the grass, the soccer field, the basketball court. We celebrate all that God has given us, this amazing gift of a permanent home for His church. And so as we call people into this church, last week we asked you to sign our wall, brick by brick, to sign a brick. Because we believe that God is building a church not out of concrete and chairs and leaky roofs, but out of people, out of you. Out of you. God is building His church one person at a time. It's a church that is still under construction. It's a church that's been under construction for 2,000 years. It's expanding. It's growing. It's reaching people in their hearts, and they're hearing the message of God, of love, of forgiveness, of mercy. Death on a cross. Because of us. Because of God's people. And so, if you haven't signed a brick yet, I invite you to sign a brick today while we celebrate. Because God is using us all together for this mission. But how does God use us? And I think God uses us by the gifts that He gives us. God gives us each certain gifts, and that's what the text is about today. It's that God is building a church. The one body, Paul calls it. Well, this church is one body. Abiding Lutheran Church is one body. And we have all kinds of different gifts in this congregation that make up that one body. And they're all equally important. That's what he says. That the hand is as equally important as the foot. And if you've ever had a problem with your foot or a problem with your hand, you know that ruins the rest of the day for the whole rest of the body. Or if you have a problem with your eyes or your ears, each and every single part of the body is important. So each and every gift that God has given us is important. So I want to talk about what gifts has God given you? When I was first asked to give a sermon by my pastor, I was really nervous. I got like a C-, I think, in college speech. I didn't really try that hard, but I really wasn't that good either. And so my pastor asked me to give the sermon, and I was just, to say I was nervous, to put it lightly. So what I did was I went and I just wrote out this sermon, and it was 6 or 7 pages long. And I rehearsed it, and I rehearsed it, and I rehearsed it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get up there, and I'm just going to read this little thing that I wrote. And then I even put things in there to remind myself to look up every now and then. So I'd read half a page and look up. And I got up there and I was so nervous. I just said, God, just help me. Get me through this. You ever say that? Just don't let me do it well. I don't care if it affects anyone else. Just get me through this. I stood up there and I had my paper in front of me. I took a deep breath and I started talking. Words that I hadn't written. I had no idea where it was coming from. Words were just coming out of my mouth, sounding theological. And I did that for like 12 minutes. And then I said amen. And I looked down and I was still on the first sheet of paper. I had never looked down. To this day, I can't tell you what I said. But afterwards, as people were walking out, they said, that was really good. That was good. You should do that again. You should do that more. And I realized that day that maybe I have a gift for that. Now, I will say this. I know that people are better preaching. But I really do feel like God has given me a gift to do this. I have no fear of public speaking now. I mean, I write certain, I just enjoy it. It's something I'm passionate about. For me, I went to seminary because I realized God gave me a gift to preach. That's what I feel like God has called me to do. It's what I'm passionate about. When I was in seminary, I told people, I feel like I'm living at the intersection of my passion and God's gift. I love doing this. And 10 years ago, I never would have said that. I had no idea that this is what my gift was. What's your gift? What are you passionate about? Because I know we're good at things, but I think to be a true gift from God, good at it and passionate about it. Like Bridget Schamberger, she's passionate about fitness. And so she says, I really want to do this fit club. She's been wanting to do it for a while. And we've had to work out stuff because we didn't own the property and the insurance and all that kind of stuff. And so she's passionate about that. And that's a gift that she's giving to our congregation. I am passionate about this fitness. And so she's going to start a fit club. We're starting a fit club. Bruce, you just joined last week, and he's starting a dance class. So he's passionate about it. It's fun. It's passionate. And so it's not just what am I good at? What am I passionate about? How can I use it as a gift for the church? I walked in this morning and these banners were hanging from the ceiling. For the last 2.5 years, they've been hanging from choir stands that we haven't been using. Somebody just came in on Saturday and did them. Who did them? David? David and Bill? They're just... Lisa? Thank you. It looks great. I mean, people that have gifts to do these kind of things, creative gifts, they say, I think there's a different way we can do that, a better way we can do that. And they just come in and do it. They're passionate about our church, and they're passionate about giving their gifts to our church. What are you passionate about? What can you do for our church? What can you do for God's church? I've heard that, everybody know Calvary Lutheran Church? They're about 15 minutes south of here. One of their guys said, I really like smoking food. And they said, let's get together one night and smoke briskets and chickens. And so they did. They got together and they said, this is fun. And, it kind of gets us out of going to worship. Because we could just stay out here and smoke food. And they said, we should do this every month. We should get together and smoke food. And so they did. They said, well, what are we going to do with all this food? They said, why don't we sell it to people coming out of church? And so every Monday, once a month, every Sunday, once a month on a Sunday, people come out of church and they smoke 100 chickens. And they sell 100 chickens. And they take that money and they donate it to different places. And they have created this monster smoker that I've never seen anything like it before. It's 15 yards long and 4 feet wide, and it's just huge. And they can fit 200 chickens in there. And they're using this as a ministry. Just because a guy said, I'm really passionate about smoking food. I've heard Bill Rose say, I think it would be really cool to turn that back garage into a workshop for woodworking. And so we may have our own little workshop here where anyone can come anytime they want and play with wood. And who knows what ministry could come out of it? Who knows what ministry can come out of someone standing up and saying, I'm really passionate about this. I'd like to do it. So what are you passionate about? But maybe if you're not passionate about anything, what are you good at to share? Or what do you have time to do? Phil Hart drives from Mid-Cities Care Corps. All he does is drive. How many people in here drive? A lot of people. What do you have time to do? What gifts, not to say that you're not gifted in other ways, Phil does a ton of stuff behind the scenes. He's only good for driving, that's not what I'm saying. What do you have time to do? What gifts can you give to God's church that everyone else can give, but you just have time to give. I think it's important to know what the gifts are that we can bring, and it's important to know the gifts that we're not good at. The gifts we haven't been given. The other night I was right around my house, there's this little driving range and putt place, and they have a batting cage there. And so I was practicing putting, and the batting cage is right next to the putting green. And there's a father in there teaching his son how to hit baseballs. And I used to coach Little League, so I always listen to what people are doing, and I'm half listening to him, and he's telling his son kind of not the right way to hit a baseball, but I'm like, that's okay. He's with his son, and he's trying, and then he says, "Now, I may not be able to hit it because it's coming so slow." Okay, you have my full attention now. And I turned and watched, and this poor guy, he was trying so hard to, teach his son how to hit a baseball, but he didn't know how to hit a baseball. And I thought to myself, I kind of want to help, but he's trying real hard. There are things that we're just not good at. If we have children, I'm not going to teach them how to sing. Lee can. I'm not going to teach them how to play the piano. There are certain things I'm not going to teach them because I don't have that gift. God puts us in certain situations where we're asked to do things we're not good at. Now, like this guy, and I give him all the credit in the world because he was really trying. We can try to get better at things, but sometimes we have to realize there are better people at this than me. And if that person's available, why not let them do it? And it's the same for the church. You ever been to a church and walk in and you weren't really greeted, and you sat down and nobody knew who you were? I wonder if the people in charge just aren't really good at being friendly, but they like being in charge. And so we have to realize that people are gifted at different things. And if you're in an area where you don't feel like you're gifted, you're not passionate about it, you don't enjoy it, let someone else do it who might be better. Because at times, we're all going to be called to share our gifts. God's going to put us in situations to share our gifts. We were, Friday, Don Renwick, John Tesh, and I, and a friend of Don's, we went golfing, and we stopped for breakfast in Weatherford. We were going way out west, and we were talking about our church. And this guy named James Tucker came up to us, and he said, "I heard you guys talking about your church." And he had his bill in his hand, and I immediately thought, he's going to say, I don't have enough to cover my breakfast. Can you help me? But that's not what he said. He said, I'm driving home from a scan in downtown Fort Worth, and I just found that I have cancer all through me. And I just wondered if you would add me to your prayer list. Sure. And that, it's kind of one of those things that just kind of takes you by surprise. And then Ken, Don's friend, said, can we pray for him now? And so there in the Iron Skillet in Weatherford, Texas, the 5 of us men there, we prayed together. And we prayed for James, for healing, and for his family, and for support. And, when you open yourself up to allow God to use your gifts, God puts you in situations to use them. God puts you in situations outside of these 4 walls. Because in reality, if you really think about it, the gifts that God has given you, they're not for you. We call them gifts, but they're not for you. God has given you gifts to use for His church. Your gifts are for Him. You've already been given a gift. And that gift is Jesus' death on the cross for you. His love, His grace, His life for yours. Everything else is God's. Amen.